Today, we are talking about calcium dominance and how to walk away from calcium dominance. And there are very specific things that you can take to make sure your magnesium-calcium ratio is where you want it to be. Chaga mushroom. It helps to break down the calcium. When your pineal gets calcified, it stops how your brain processes. Taking chaga mushrooms, adding enzymes into your diet through whole foods, supplemental, or both, will help to break down the calcium dominance. Adrenals are very affected by calcium dominance. Pineal gland is very affected by calcium dominance. Kidneys are very affected by calcium dominance. When you have calcium dominance, that can be tanking your thyroid because your thyroid and your adrenals work together. And if your adrenals are calcified, then your thyroid is having to do the work for both, and it gets tired and run down. Sometimes we go right to our thyroid. Oh, I've got to boost my thyroid. I have to boost my thyroid. Oh, and remember, my name is Kristen. I'm a magnesium advocate. I am not a doctor. I'm sharing with you things that I have learned that helped me to get out of a wheelchair after a failed surgery and get rid of the seizures that were happening throughout my day. Please remember, any decision that you make for your health, you need to filter it through your own situation and run it by your health board of directors. Good morning, Sylvia. So glad to have you here. When our pineal gland is calcified, it walks us away not only from help, but from connecting to people, connecting to those things that we want. Hang with me. This is going to sound maybe a little stretch of woo-woo for some of you, but it's supported by science. Our pineal gland has an energy and a pulse that it sends out. And like energy attracts like energy. When your pineal gland is calcified, you're not sending that out. Have you ever met people that are really good at just creating things and connecting with people, and things seem to come easier for them? Studies have shown that a calcified pineal gland steps you away from that synchronicity. A calcified pineal gland stops the spread of sunshine in your body. Pineal gland is your master gland. And so when it becomes calcified, we have an issue. We have problems. Oh, Kathy, you finished your foot soak, a beautiful fall day. I love that. Sitting on your deck outside. That opens the gateway of health. We have a problem currently in that we have created calcium dominant bodies versus a magnesium-rich environment. It used to be that our magnesium-calcium ratio was 3 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium. Guess what the average is now? 5 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium. And that's where we have a problem. Calcium is critical for health, but we want calcium in the correct places, in the correct ratio, so that we are creating a magnesium-rich environment that calcium can go where it needs to go. And that's one of the problems with synthetic vitamin D. First off, let's course correct that. We see vitamin D everywhere. It's not a vitamin. It is a hormone. Calcium and magnesium are minerals. Vitamin D is a hormone. Think about your hormone balance and how powerful that is in your body. And then add on top of that synthetic hormones. Would you just run and grab synthetic hormones and start taking those without knowing what your body needs? Essentially, that's what we're doing, taking that synthetic vitamin D. And it's in everything. It's in orange juice. It's in milk. It's in so many different things now. You'll see that, quote, vitamin D. It's a hormone and must be treated with the respect that we need to be paying our hormones. When our stored vitamin D and our active vitamin D are in balance, our immune system is stronger. Synthetic hormone, vitamin D, can only move your stored vitamin D levels. And that changes where the calcium is put in your body. Vitamin D, hormone, vitamin D, is what controls where the calcium goes. And if you're adding more and more synthetic vitamin D because your vitamin D levels are low, let me grab some water. If you're pouring that on top and getting your stored vitamin D above your active vitamin D, then we have calcium going to the wrong place. And it binds up your adrenals. It binds up your kidneys. It's not good for your heart and your arteries, your pineal gland. Calcium is critical, but it must be in the right places. Now, I've made some notes to support my concern about calcium. Number one, let's talk about blood work. How do I find out if I'm calcium dominant? There are several different ways to test your calcium. The most common way is total calcium, and that will tell you the total amounts of calcium in your body. And typically we want those between 8.6 and 10.2 milligrams. Remember though, the lab that you're getting your tests done at might have a different ratio that it needs to fall in. So even though that 8.6 to 10.2 milligrams per deciliter is that common, the lab you're using might be different. And so you need to look at where that specific lab wants you falling in your calcium. That's the total calcium. I want to know more than just the total calcium. I want to know what calcium is free and not bound to protein. That's the number that I'm really interested in. And that test is ionized calcium blood work, ionized. And that's going to tell you how much calcium is not bound to protein in your body. And so that's the calcium that's just floating around and going to the wrong places. I like knowing my blood work and understanding my blood work and knowing where I'm at through the filter that blood work is not perfect. It gives us a snapshot in time. When calcium is not where it needs to be, it starts creating havoc in our body. Ways that we can decalcify are sunshine. Sitting on that deck, Kathy, soaking in that sunshine is a way that we decalcify our pineal gland, our adrenals, our kidneys, depending on how much calcium that we have. Another way that you can do a decalcification is blue-green algae. That decalcifies your pineal gland. Another way is apple cider vinegar. There used to be a brand I loved, but it's changed. And so I don't have a brand now that I can say, oh, I absolutely love this apple cider vinegar. I'm still in the research mode on that. It's simple to make, but I don't always have time to do that. And so I'm in the process of determining what one's a good fit for me to have on my kitchen shelf when I don't have my own apple cider vinegar made. But apple cider vinegar decalcifies your pineal gland, your adrenals, because it's so easy in this current environment that we have to become calcium dominant. Now, I've pulled a list that I want to run by you in my Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes. And I make tons of thoughts on my, I write down tons of thoughts on my Post-it notes. Here are some of the symptoms that women and men, I focus on women, that they experience when their calcium is high and they're in a calcium dominant environment instead of a magnesium rich environment. Back on that shelf, you'll see magnesium soap from Living the Good Life Naturally. Magnesium helps to decalcify pineal. Magnesium helps to create a magnesium-rich environment versus calcium dominance. When women are calcium dominant and then they go and create a magnesium-rich environment, here's the things that change. A calcium-dominant body is tired, weak, low appetite, runs toward being constipated, thirsty, and bone pain. Those are some of the symptoms, and you don't have to have all of those, but those are some of the ways and symptoms that your body's giving you feedback. You might be creating a calcium dominant environment. As I've watched over the last 20 years, as women have created a magnesium rich environment for their bodies so that their body can naturally open the first gateway of health and take that stored vitamin D and turn it into active vitamin D to strengthen your immune and your bones and your brain. Those are the things that start to go away. Creating a magnesium-rich environment, if I would have understood that concept, my journey over the last 20 years of reclaiming my health, walking away from autoimmune issues, bone density issues, would have been shortened by years if I would have understood that simple concept, that the first gateway of health is creating a magnesium-rich environment. I did that through soaking in that magnesium and maintaining magnesium cell saturation of 6.3 or above. Now, I want to put that magnesium-rich environment, calcium dominance, what it does to our body, and I want to focus on Alzheimer's for a little bit. Did you know that Alzheimer's and dementia is increasing at an incredibly alarming rate? Heart disease, the #1 killer in the United States, has decreased by about 2%, which is wonderful. Alzheimer's, depending on the studies that you read, I pulled from several studies, anywhere from 150% increase in 2023 to a 3,000% increase, depending on which study. But let's talk about the cost of caring for someone who has Alzheimer's, which Alzheimer's, they're now showing, is a calcium dominant environment. They've lost their ability to create a magnesium rich environment. And when that happens, our brain stops functioning and we start walking toward Alzheimer's and dementia and type 3 diabetes. And we lose the essence of that person. And I want to pull up the numbers so that I get this correctly. So I'm going to check my notes here. The caregiver cost in 1 year in 2023 was $18 billion of unpaid help that is upheld by the family taking care of that person. $346 billion goes out to care for an Alzheimer dementia patient that is paid for. So 18 billion unpaid and 346 billion in total costs to care for Alzheimer's and dementia. For one person, once they've reached that point of dementia and Alzheimer's, it's $500,000 to care for them. The concern is now that there's not the quality of care. I know about 10 years ago, my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia symptoms. We were so fortunate that my mother could step in and pay for his care. He worked hard all of his life, but he did not have the ability with his own finances to take care of his care properly. And so my mom stepped in and paid that cost. She kept him in her home as long as she could. And then the 24/7 care that he needed was more than what she could give him. And so she found a wonderful place. But the out-of-pocket cost was through the roof. Not everyone is going to be able to afford that, to take care of family and loved ones. We need to take steps now to create a magnesium-rich environment and reduce the number of people who are walking toward Alzheimer's and dementia symptoms, not only because we love them, but because the cost of that care, not everyone will be able to do. They won't be able to take care of the people that we love because of the high cost of the health care of doing that. Being proactive, doing things now, making sure that our vitamin D levels are optimized. Is the gateway to our health, not only to our bone density, but to our brain function, to our thyroid function, our adrenals. And when we have too much synthetic vitamin D, it's not doing what we think it's doing, because too much vitamin D synthetically is putting calcium in the wrong places. And we need calcium. We want calcium. We want it in the correct ratio in the proper place. And overdosing on a hormone, vitamin D, is not the answer. And now we're seeing all of these high doses of synthetic vitamin D isn't doing what we thought it was going to do. Magnesium morning trifecta. Kathy this morning was on her deck in the sunshine, soaking in magnesium. If she can get some walking in along with that, she has created that magnesium morning trifecta of uptaking sunshine, decreasing inflammation, increasing magnesium levels, making sure that calcium is going where it needs to go. A calcified pineal gland affects your personality. It affects how you put your vibration out into the world, because if your pineal gland is calcified, you're not putting that vibration. Have you ever been around someone and you just felt lifted? You just felt better in their presence. Part of that is their pineal and how it's radiating out of their bodies. You can't radiate light when your pineal is calcified. Okay, so I'm resetting my timer there so I stay within their 30 minutes today. Oh, Kathy just said, my walk is next. Good morning, Robin. So nice to have you here this morning. Welcome. Oh, let's hop over. Let's hop over and make sure Instagram right now is going off and on and being live and then not being live. So we'll make sure that that's on there. Today we're talking about calcium dominance and walking away from calcium dominance and some of the simple supplements that we can use. Shizandra. Have you ever used Shizandra? It has been shown to decalcify our pineal gland. Another one is iodine. Are you using iodine? And are you using it in the proper pathways to reduce calcium dominance in your body? Iodine is powerful. Using it incorrectly can decrease our thyroid function. I would love to know the people who are here, would that be something we want to talk about right now? Is the pathway of iodine and ways that I've seen people use it that's been incredibly powerful? Or we can go to, let's see, we talked about our blood work and we talked about muscle cramping can be calcium in the wrong places. Tingling hands can be in the wrong places. Oh, Melissa, Amy, and Vanessa, thank you. I wish that this were two-way, and then that way I could see you and know if that was interesting. And so your feedback helps me. Iodine decalcifies pineal. Iodine helps you to create a magnesium-rich environment. Oh, Kelly, you've got it. We're going there right now. Patty, thank you for that feedback. It's your feedback helps me to know, like, is this interesting to them or is this just falling flat? And I want our 30 minutes together. I want it to be a time that we're connecting and that we're learning more about our health and walking away with an action item. Iodine is powerful and it helps you create a magnesium-rich environment as you soak in magnesium soap from Living the Good Life Naturally. As you're creating that magnesium-rich environment and achieving magnesium red blood cell saturation of 6.3, some people create that easily and other people, it is a longer, harder pathway. Adding supporting cofactors on your journey can help you create that magnesium-rich environment. We've talked about the desiccated beef liver. This you can see on there, we had a KB approved. And so this means I love this product and use it personally. The desiccated liver has whole food vitamin D, whole food vitamin A, and this is now available on my website, livingthegoodlifenaturally.com. It's grass-fed, grass-finished, does not have heavy metals, and is the best source I have ever found. And you can take up to 4, but we're seeing blood work change on anemia taking 2. I love this desiccated liver and how it supports the whole process of walking away from calcium dominance. Another thing that you can add is iodine. If you start adding iodine orally, most people, it will tank your thyroid function in a way that you will visibly feel it sometimes within hours, because your body starts letting go of bromine, which is very similar to iodine, and then that binds up your thyroid function. Bromine is found in colorants. Think of Mountain Dew, Bromine City. Pajamas. When you buy a pair of pajamas, it has bromine. It legally has to have bromine on it as a fire reducer. And so bromine's everywhere. And that bromine, because we're lacking iodine, and so our bodies start using the bromine instead of the iodine, but it doesn't support thyroid function. And then if you start dumping iodine in, you start releasing the bromine and it reduces thyroid function. So here's the way I've added iodine to my body in a way that didn't tank my thyroid and increase my autoimmune symptoms. I've had autoimmune since my early 20s, but I don't have the symptoms now of autoimmune. I can get little arthritis flares, but I can course correct that because it's feedback from my body. I'm off track from what I know works for me. And adding iodine increases brain function. ADHD symptoms decrease when the body has proper levels of iodine, and it becomes easier to create a magnesium-rich environment. How do we do it? Number one, I like nascent iodine. Now, nascent was trademarked. There are lots of other companies that can do the type of iodine that nascent is, but they can't call it nascent. So that nascent iodine has the most balanced molecular structure. Other iodines, Lugol's comes to mind, has a very strong head and a very weak tail. And so it goes in and slams thyroid. And currently, so many of us have depleted thyroid function that when you add that Lugol's, it's just too much for the thyroid to uptake. That's why I like nascent. It's a more balanced molecular structure, and it's more easily absorbed through the skin. There are two pathways for iodine. One is orally, and the other is through the skin. And remember, when you have proper levels of iodine, it is easier to soak in magnesium and achieve magnesium cell saturation. I utilize magnesium soak for my own company, Living the Good Life Naturally. I wanted to be in charge of the supply chain. And that magnesium soak helped me achieve magnesium levels of 6.3. Adding the iodine helped me get there faster. When you put iodine on your skin, it will not taint. Oh, back up. I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm sharing with you what I did and what I've seen for you to make the best decision for you. It's incredibly important that we hold that balance, you and I. It would be inappropriate of me to assume that I could tell you what to do for your health. So with that filter on, iodine orally is a different pathway than through your skin. Orally, you need to have other cofactors in place to support it. Your vitamin C levels need to be strong, meaning that you're taking vitamin C in on a daily basis. Your Brazil nuts, selenium needs to be strong. I use Brazil nuts to add selenium to my diet every day. Your magnesium levels need to be not absolutely tanked, but at least in the middle on that spectrum. Your salt levels need to be at the appropriate place before you take oral iodine, in my opinion, for me. You determine what's best for you. When you have those supporting cofactors of salt, selenium, magnesium, and vitamin C, then when you take the iodine orally, it won't tank your thyroid as much. Always low and slow on iodine. It's so incredibly powerful. The beautiful thing about nascent iodine or similarly structured iodine, because nascent is trademarked, is that you can put it on your skin and not have to have all of those cofactors in place. It is a gentler approach to adding iodine. If any of you have ever experienced cysts in your, let's see, I've got to be careful what I say so I don't get flagged. Yeah. If you've ever experienced cysts, adding topical iodine can be a game changer for that. Adding iodine through your skin is a gentle pathway to get iodine in your body before you add it orally to increase your iodine levels, because iodine helps to decalcify the calcium. If you're low in vitamin D, that's a very strong indication you could be very heavily calcium dominant, because to become low in vitamin D, you had to be low in magnesium, which means you don't have the magnesium in place to balance the calcium. Both are important. 3 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium is the ideal. And it's interesting. Did you know that's the levels that the ocean waters are? Is 3 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium. And if you've hung out with me on my lives before, we've talked about how the magnesium morning trifecta brings that wave into the cell. Our cell needs that circadian rhythm and strong wave of water coming in, and then we want it going out, just like the rhythm of the ocean. And our magnesium calcium ratio needs to mirror what the ocean is at naturally. 3 parts magnesium to 1 part calcium. And if your vitamin D is low, that blood work is feedback that your magnesium calcium ratio is off. And so putting it on your body, you do need to be incredibly careful about your using the iodine. I put it on at nighttime. It will stain. I'm a sheet snob. It's my mother's fault. She had the most amazing sheets growing up as kids, and in her home now, I love getting in her sheets. And so I put a high priority on my sheets, which means I put the energy of money on my sheets, and I don't want them stained, and I love white sheets. Be careful with the iodine. If it's not dried, it will stain pajamas, sheets, anything it touches. At nighttime is when I put my iodine on before I go to bed. I rub it over my belly. I rub it in soft tissue areas, under my arms, over my thyroid, around my neck. And it is such a gentler pathway to add iodine to your body without tanking thyroid function. And remember, iodine helps you decalcify pineal in your body, which helps you to resonate at a different level, helps you to bring in more of the things that you want, helps your pineal to spread the sunshine through your body. It's the master gland in your body. And if you're low in vitamin D, we know that calcium dominance is a part of the reason why. Creating a magnesium-rich environment is the entire focus of living the good life naturally. That magnesium morning trifecta helps you walk away from calcium dominance. And then we have supporting players. We have the desiccated liver. And I've got, I think, about 3,000 bottles left of this. I haven't been able to source more. So this is not something like where I got this from. They don't have a never ending supply. And so I've got about 3,000 bottles left of this desiccated liver, whole food vitamin D, whole food vitamin A that supports your body in creating a magnesium rich environment. It also has B vitamins. B vitamins are burned up when we're stressed. And so this also has those B vitamins that are so incredibly important. When we add iodine, that also helps. Hold on.